to Net English 100 for your fingertips. Our channel provides free audio lectures based on the present syllabus of UGC Net JRF English. On the wake of this global pandemic, we believe that you and your family are staying safe and healthy. So, for today, we are going to discuss one of the earliest periods of English social and political history, the Anglo Norman period, which spans between 1066 to 1340. So, first question that we are going to address in this audio is who were Normans? So, we have two terms, Norman, Anglo and Normans. So, who were Normans? Normans were basically pagan barbarian pirates from Denmark, Norway, and Ireland who began to make destructive plundering raids on European coastal settlements in the 8th century. They were originally descendants of Vikings who settled in the northwest France the early 10th century. At the beginning of 10th century, the French King Charles the Simple made a treaty with this Viking chief, Viking, Viking chief Rollo. And by that treaty, this French king had transferred some land to this Viking king from his possession. Why he gave that? Hoping that these Vikings would stop attacking and plundering French land. So, what was the after effect? Within 2 generations, Rollo and his followers adopted the Franc language, religion, laws, customs, political organization, and methods of warfare. They intermarried and mixed with the native French population. So, from Norway, Ireland, and Denmark, now they reached France and became completely French. They had adopted to French culture completely, but excepting one in the name. They were known as Normans, men of Normandy, and their land became known as the land of Nordmanni, Nordmanni, Nordmanni or Northmen. By the middle of the 11th century, Normandy became one of the most powerful states in Christendom. Though the Normans had converted to Christianity, adopted French language, and abandoned sea roving for Frankish cavalry warfare in the decades following their settlement in Normandy, they still retained many of the traits of their Viking ancestors. They displayed an extreme fearless and courage, craftiness and cunning, a love for fighting, and spread terror whenever they went. In the early 11th century, a group of Norman merchants led by Robert Guiscard, the sixth son of Tancred, helped various factions in Italy in order to gain territories for themselves. By 1060, there were three separate Norman holdings. So basically, even after settled in northern French area, they expanded their territory by conducting expeditions. Now, how they landed in England or why Normans conquered England. Let's look into that. So, Normans conquered England in 1066, and that, as I said earlier, marks the beginning of Anglo-Norman period in English history. Who conquered England from the side of Normans? William I or William, the Duke of Normandy, conquered England. And why he conquered England? In that year, that is in 1066, Edward the Confessor, King of England, died without an heir appointing his will. Harold Godwinson, son of England's most powerful nobleman, the Earl of Wessex, as his successor. Across the Channel, William of Normandy. Across the Channel means across the English Channel, William of Normandy considered himself rightfully the next King of England, basing his claim on a promise by Edward the Confessor in the early 1050s and an oath of fealty sworn by Harold during an enforced visit to William's capital at Rouen. So, according to William the Duke of Normandy, this King Edward the Confessor had promised him prior the throne of England, and now he appointed another person as the heir, that is Godwinson. And William also claims that Harold has sworn that the throne, he would transfer the throne to William when once he visited his capital, that is William's capital at Rouen. Although he had promised to support William, who this Harold promised to support William, Harold allowed himself to be the elected king as soon as Edward had died. So William felt it as a treachery. The move was taken because it was feared that the Norwegian king and his son Harald, so a third heir claiming the throne, also appears. Then, in January 1066, King Harold II, that is Harold Godwinson, when became the King of England, came to be known as King Harold II, was crowned at St. Paul's Cathedral. And as the news of this accession and coronation, Harold Godwinson spread, both William of Normandy and Harald, the new claim from Norway, they joined and raised forces and planned to invade England. And thus, in 1066, started the Battle of Hastings. It began in the morning and went well for the English well into the afternoon, giving their advantage position on the hill. Then the French forced a retreat, thus luring the English out of their vantage points. They advanced and succeeded in getting the upper hand. Towards the end of the day, the leader of the English, Harold, fell when a Norman arrow struck him in the eye. As a result, the English were routed and the French were victorious by nightfall. William, in true medieval warfare fashion, continued to plunder the southeast of England until London capitulated and decided to accept him as the King of England. He was crowned King of England on Christmas Day 1066, and from thereafter, William, Duke of Normandy, came to be known as King William I. So, with the invasion of Normandy and their victory, the Anglo Saxon period of English literature or English history came to an end and started Anglo Norman period. And one of the famous achievements of William I as the king is Doomsday Book. Let me spell Tomesday, Doomsday Book. Doomsday Book was a great census of the lands and people of England. Then, after the death of William I in 1087, his son William II became the next king of England. Now, we are going to move to the third question, and probably the most important question that we are going to address in this audio. What was the impact of Anglo-Norman conquest? To say in one word or in a sentence, Norman conquest radically changed English culture, law, language, and character. How? Thus, as very important, the Norman conquest brought to power a French-speaking ruling class. French became the language of law and Old English became confined to the lower classes. So the language of law became French and English remained as the language of working classes or lower classes. Then they introduced feudal system to England. That is, the whole society was based on hierarchy. The king granted land to his tenants in chief, who granted sublands to his tenants. Each field in the feudal system had to pay for the land. That means the feudal chief had to pay to the king for his land. The tenants of the feudal chief had to pay for the land that they received from the feudal chief. Then the next change happened in the legal system or the legal practice. So the justice came under royal control. Decreased, fines increased. For a short while, William's army spread widespread devastation and had a negative effect on the economy of England. Then they introduced new building practices into England. They created important castles such as the Tower of London. Normans seized wealth and lands from the English church. They introduced the idea of church codes in English. This is also very important. It was Normans who introduced the system of church codes in England. So, Anglo-Normans refers to the period from the Norman conquest to the middle of the 14th century. And the Norman conquest inaugurated a distinctly new epoch where the clergy insisted on the use of Latin and the nobility on the use of French. So clergy, the language of clergy became Latin. The language of nobility became French. English remained as the language of lower classes. As a result, chronicles, religious and didactic writings, poetry, and drama were written in Latin. So, to address the question, who were Normans, we have done that. Why they came in England, we have said that also. And what was the impact? So, then what is the meaning of the word the Anglo-Norman? Okay, so the period is known as Anglo-Norman, not the Norman period, it's Anglo-Norman. So in nutshell, understand that Anglo-Norman is the dialect of medieval French introduced to Britain following the Norman conquest. So Normans are the people, Normandy is the land, and Anglo-Norman is the dialect they spoke. And Anglo-Normans were the people who used to speak that dialect until the end of 14th century or until the end of 14th century. So in the next audio, we are going to analyze the impact of Norman conquest in literature and also the literature of the Anglo-Norman period, which were basically chronicles and religious writings. We will analyze major writings, authors, and other details. So stay subscribed for next videos. Remember to press the bell icon and select the all option after subscription to get notified at the time of uploading itself. Happy listening. Thank you.